Since the fall of man, a war has raged between good and evil. Over the centuries, this war has distorted the truth. Now the truth is perceived as lies, and lies acknowledged as truth. To this day, the battle continues as we investigate and debate the truth behind the history and mystery of the universe. We are Paratruth Radio.
Bigfoot is one of the most elusive cryptids out there. There are movies, books, and even eyewitness accounts of this creature. And sometimes, a movie that comes out that makes you a believer.
Now Paratruth presents the Bigfoot Chronicles with special guest Tom Monson.
Hey, Parafans. Welcome to another episode of Paratruth Radio. This is Justin. I am flying solo today. Unfortunately, Eric is out for a couple months.
Aww.
But he will be back after shooting The Revealed and a couple other movies that he's helping other people with. So I wish him the best of luck, and I'm looking forward to his impromptu return. But tonight we've got a great guest on, Tom Monson, who did the movie Bigfoot Chronicles. And this is a movie that it's a fictional movie that is kind of shot in a documentary style film. So we are going to go to the line here with Tom Monson. All right, Tom, welcome to Paratruth Radio. How are you, sir?
Hey, it's my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me on. I'm great. I'm always great. I always say that any day this side of the dirt's a good one.
Yeah, I would say so, most definitely. So before we get started here, I wanted to give you a chance to
Sure.
Tell everybody where they can find you, find the Bigfoot Chronicles, all that great stuff.
If you go to BigfootChronicles.com, in one of the pages there will tell you where you can find the movie. It's available at Walmart. Some Walmarts have sold out of it, but it's still available at some, so I would check there. Also, if you are a member of Netflix, you might put it in the queue to see if they'll pick it up. It hasn't been picked up by Netflix, but it's on Amazon Play. I mean, it's just Amazon Prime. It's just all over the place. But the best thing is go to BigfootChronicles.com, and there's just a place, one of the pages you can turn to that'll tell you where to find it.
All right, awesome. So getting started here, what kind of gave you the idea or initiated you to start doing this movie?
Well, actually, the idea goes way back. It was like in the early 70s. I had gone to a nightclub called Charlie Brown's out in Marina Del Rey. And my cousin and I went there to meet girls or do whatever, just doing studs, hang out, and drinking. And this guy walks in, and he's a curmudgeon, and he's probably about 5'7" or 8, gray beard, wearing and a nightclub, and we're all decked out in our leisure suits and all stuff. And so he comes in wearing a flannel shirt. And, I just was really intrigued. I've always been a people person, so I just watching this guy, and I just had to open out what his story was. And so I've always been journaling. So I walked up and I said, "Hi, my name's Tom. What's yours?" And he goes, "Well, my name is Wally." And he spoke very, very slowly, and he goes, "Well, my name's Wally." And I said, "So, you mind if I join you?" He goes, "Okay." And he gets a really sweet smile on him. Find out he's a really nice guy. And so I said, "So, what?" And he goes, "Well, I just came down here to be my children. I got up in Oregon." And I said, "Oh, wait, no." He said, "Well, you get my back." And then my cousin was sitting. He was kind of the joker. Well, do you see Bigfoot? This is a Patterson film. Okay, still it's being talked about, and there's a lot of interest in it. And the guy just stares at my cousin and he goes, "And what if I did?" He goes, and I said, "Listen, you got to tell me about that." And so he tells a story about ours. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to Oregon, but man, there are some deep, dark forests up there, and they were up logging. And he came back. He's driving his truck back, and he comes up on a tree that's laying across the road. And so, and that's not that unusual of an occurrence to see a tree laying across the road. But so he stops the truck, pulls his chain out, and pulls the tree out of the way so he can get by it. He's taking his chain, putting it in the back of the truck, and he said he looks up and he sees this Bigfoot coming right at him at a dead run. And he said he didn't know what to do. He just froze. And so this Bigfoot comes maybe 10 feet away from him, stops, and gets right in his face, and he just screams. It goes whoop, whoop, whoop. And and I mean, but it was, I don't have enough vocal cords to make it sound like it really sounds. But Wally, Wally said he just scared the bejesus out of him. So then the Bigfoot sat there and yelled at him just for a second, and I'm calling it the yell, but he was or whatever you want to call it. And so the Bigfoot turns around and he runs away. And then he stops. He gets about 20 feet out and he stops. He turns around and he runs back to Wally, and he does the same thing, like he was trying to tell him something, like there's some urgency or something. Mm. And Wally said again, he just froze. We talk about, stress will cause us to fight or flight, right? Mm. But you don't have the third F, which is freeze. And that's what he did. He was sitting there. And then the Bigfoot turns around and runs off again, but this time Wally figures out that he can get to his truck and take off, and so he did. And the Bigfoot chased him down the road, and listening to that story, he told it with so much detail and so much passion and so much, genuine inflection. I believed him. I totally believed him. And at that point, and so that was the first seed that was planted. Okay. So, fast forward to 1990, and I'm working in film. I'm doing documentary film for educational purposes. And, I start working on a film with, that deals with substance abuse. And so in 1992, my son was killed by a drunk driver. And so that totally destroyed me as a human being. I want to tell you that was a catastrophic event that I still have not recovered from, and I never will recover. And so it really alters. And why that's important is that, I decided that I was going to pursue a career of making documentary films about substance abuse, and so that's what I did starting then. And then in 1999, somebody was telling me about another Bigfoot encounter, and then it just flashed back to Wally and all that stuff. And this other guy was up by in Cave Junction. There's the state Oregon caves, and it's a national park, and it's just all these awesome caves. But there's been a number of sightings of Bigfoot up in that area, and so they were telling me about that. And so I just said, well, I think maybe I should make a documentary film, because I'd done all these documentary films, and I've done 13 films about substance abuse, and I was kind of tired of that, and so I decided I wanted to do something else. And so, I kept working in the substance abuse field, but I started thinking about doing a documentary film about Bigfoot. And so I started gathering information at that point. And whenever I do a documentary, I put a lot of research into it, because I don't want to do anything, like all my drug stuff, I don't want to do anything that's going to possibly hurt anybody else. Right. And I'm not going to say something that is not true on anything that I do. I don't care about sensationalizing anything. That's not why I make these films. I make these films to help people understand certain things. Well, so I'm doing all this research. I met this wonderful woman named Linda, and her name is Linda Coyle Suchi, and she wrote a book called Who's Watching You? And it's a very popular book about Bigfoot encounters. Well, her and I spent a lot of time talking on the phone. She lived up in Washington. I live in Oregon. And so we spent a lot of time, and so she told me about her family and how they had an encounter with a Bigfoot family, and they said that they're very smart and that she lived with her grandmother and grandfather. And so as I'm putting all these pieces together, I'm composing this movie in my head. Mm-hmm. And, I decided that, if I did a documentary, it would have to be at least an hour and a half long. And to do an hour and a half documentary is an amazing thing. So I decided that what I was going to do is I was going to make it into a feature film and follow a narrative of a story that somebody can follow, and then insert all the information as we go through the story. And that way it's easier to follow. It has a plot. People are interested in the plot, and they're interested in what's going on in the movie, and then we can give them all the information. So when I say that Bigfoot Chronicles, it's based on factual accounts of sightings of Bigfoot. So everything that we talk about in that movie is actually occurred. And, so as we're developing this thing, in 2010, I started to write the script for it. And so again, I had this in my mind, and it involved suicide and all kinds of different things, things of social interest and things that we need to have some, social change on, because the number of suicides is just way too many to go on. And so I put that piece in it, and then this movie kind of morphed into this R-rated film. And I was thinking, I would like for my granddaughter to be, who was 5 at the time, I would like for her to be able to watch this movie. And I sure didn't want to make an R, so I put that one, aside, and I started over again. And there's an old saying about movies: a screenplay is not written; it's rewritten. Mm-hmm. And so 5 versions later, I actually come up with the one that I like, and which is the one that we produced. And and it's about this filmmaker who has lost everything that's important to him. And he's just kind of going through the motions of living his life. And then all of a sudden, he's approached by this coalition of Native American Indian tribes that want him, specifically him, because he's a good documentary filmmaker, to go up and do a documentary film about Bigfoot and maybe catch some shots of Bigfoot. But they want to do that so they can prevent the clear cutting of their forests, their sacred lands. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen, and I'm sure if you're, around the woods ever, you're going to see clear cut forest. And I'll tell you what, it's the most devastating thing that you could ever do to a forest. Now, for example, did you know that some trees will only grow at certain elevations, and if you vary that elevation by more than 20 feet, some of these mountains are 100, 10,000 feet high. Right. And if you vary the tree growth by more, that specific species of trees by more than 20 feet, it won't grow. And so, these forests will stay devastated. And with global warming and everything and all the forests that they're taking out all around the world, we need to preserve these things. And so there's this little clear message in there about, clear cutting as well. So I kind of wove that into the story too. And, so these Indian tribes, they contact our guy, and he says, listen, I'm not interested in doing a movie about Bigfoot because I don't do fairy tales. Yeah. And so he's very clearly, he doesn't believe in Bigfoot. And so they actually make him an offer that he can't refuse. And so he goes up to this place in Oregon called Jackson Hill, where he meets this girl named Susan who's working with him on the project. And so all of, sparks fly right away, and there's some interest there. And so he starts interviewing these people for the documentary, right? And so one of the people he interviews is, guess who? Wally. And so this story, Wally tells as part of the Bigfoot Chronicles. But there's also other stories that have, kind of come down through the ages about Bigfoot being a Lemurian, for example. I don't know if you're familiar with Lemurians, but apparently there's a continent located beneath the Pacific Ocean called Lemuria. And the mystical brotherhood rules Lemuria, and these Lemurians believe that, or some people believe that Bigfoot is part of the mystical brotherhood. And one of the things that they talk about in this interview with this guy, also there's conspiracy theories that are brought out through these interviews, and the fact that Bigfoot's an alien is also brought out, that he has mind control and different things like that. So a lot of these things are explored. Some of them, I got to tell you, are pretty funny. One of the things that people really like about this movie is there's a lot of humor in it. Okay, and it's not poking fun at the whole Bigfoot concept. Right. It's just having fun talking about Bigfoot. Right. So that was our main intention. In fact, on BigfootChronicles.com, you can see there's one of the pages that says, reviews. And under reviews, it's got there's a picture of a little kid with sunglasses on it. If you click that, then you can go look at what some of the focus group said about the movie when they first watched it. And they all loved humor. And there were a lot of young guys. And as we do our research on this, I found that our target audience on this, the people who like this the most, are males from 45 to 60. And I can't tell you why. Well, I think I can, because there's a love story in this, and this is what kind of the thread that carries it along. Right. And so the girl that played Susan is very pretty, and so that really helped make the story more palatable to get all this Bigfoot information, right? Mm-hmm. So let's see. So anyway, I was, we're coming up to the point where Rock is doing these things, and then the hero's name is Rock, and he's doing all these interviews with all these interesting people, and then he meets this doctor named Joseph Klein, and Joseph Klein is the antagonist, and he's the guy that doesn't believe at all in Bigfoot, and he's always taken the negative side on the argument that there is no proof, and all that stuff that goes along with the people who don't believe, right? And so so we actually present both sides of the story on this. And so it comes down to the fact that, Wally tells Rock where he could actually go find Bigfoot. And so Rock mounts an expedition, and he goes up into the mountains with Susan and Dr. Klein and Dalton, who is the representative of the Indians, and the cute camera operator named Smitty. And so they all go up in the mountains, and they have some interactions, and it's just a fun little adventure story. And they go on the expedition, and that's the story itself, is the expedition. I won't tell you anything about that other than the fact that, it's a good time, and, and I won't even tell you how it ends, because I don't want to ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it. Right, yeah. People do like it. They like it a lot, and and that's why we made it, right? So people could learn about Bigfoot. And I want to tell you that, there is not a curse word in there, and there's no violence, and it's just a story about sticking to your guns and being persistent and doing the right thing. And that's what it's all about. And I made it so my granddaughter could watch it and gain something from it.
Awesome. We'll take our first break here. Folks, you are listening to Paratruth Radio with special guest Tom Monson. We're talking about his movie Bigfoot Chronicles. We will be right back after Eric's Random Fact of the Day.
Now, Eric's Random Fact of the Day.
The following comes from jfklibrary.org.
Did you know that while Kennedy was serving in World War II as commander of the PT-109, his boat was hit by a Japanese destroyer, and his crew was stranded in the Solomon Islands? Lieutenant John F. Kennedy carved his coconut shell with a message and gave it to 2 natives to deliver to the PT base at Rendova, so he and his crew would be rescued. He later had that coconut shell encased in wood and plastic and used it as a paperweight on his desk in the Oval Office. The message carved onto the coconut shell reads, Noro Isle, Commander, Native Nose Posset. He can pilot. 11 alive. Need small boat. Kennedy.
This was Eric's Random Fact of the Day.
All right, folks, welcome back to Paratruth Radio. My name is Justin. I've been talking to Tom Monson about his book, The Bigfoot Chronicles. Now, Tom, one thing that caught my attention when watching the movie was the main character, Rock, says to Dr. Klein, prove it doesn't exist. In other words, Bigfoot. But it kind of applies kind of to any cryptids or even the Bible or God and Jesus Christ and all that. And it kind of struck me because my co-host Eric comes from a Christian view on a lot of the topics we discuss. In that line in particular, did you think about anything that it would apply to other than just Bigfoot?
Absolutely. And it goes back to my belief in God. Okay. Now, I love documentary films because you can learn so much by it. And I was watching a documentary film one night, and it was talking about the universe. And in the universe, the guy said, and I can't remember his name, but he's the little Asian physicist guy, nuclear physicist, whatever his name is. You might remember it, but he was talking about the universe, and he said, the universe is so vast and so big and so huge that there are things in the universe that we can't even comprehend. And then the lights went on for me. And that's the same way it is with God. If God is omnipresent and he's so huge and he's so big that there's no way that our pea brain, our tiny little brain, look at the size of our brain compared to the universe. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't even show up if we saw it on a piece of paper, and we're trying to rationalize something with our tiny little brain that has no understanding about much, about something that's so amazing and so big. So it's like, okay, prove to me that God does not exist. Prove to me that Bigfoot does not exist. And actually, I can tell you that people have actually proven that there is Bigfoot. And, but if I came out today and said, I have absolute 100% proof, you're going to believe it or you're not going to believe it. If you're inclined to not believe it, there is no proof that I can present to you that's going to make you believe it outside of showing you the actual carcass of the Bigfoot. And even then, you're going to look at it and go, well, that's not real. That's a hoax. That's something, so you're not going to believe it if you have a tendency not to believe things. They actually have found up in Oregon, they found a carcass of a Bigfoot in an Indian a dump site on the coast up outside of Coos Bay. And it was almost 8 feet tall, and it was furry, and it was just like everything that's described the Bigfoot. And so the Indians found it and they burned it. And it was like, okay, but there was enough people. Teddy Roosevelt, the former president, he believed in Bigfoot. He wrote about it in one of his oh gosh, all off the top of my head. But so there's plenty of really credible witnesses. I have a guy that I know, a psychologist up in Grants Pass, that actually watched a Bigfoot watch his family. Now, I don't know why we haven't seen more Bigfoot, but I totally believe they're out there. My son took me up to a site, and he's an avid hunter. Now, I've never been one much for hunting because I grew up in L.A. and we don't.
Yeah.
The only thing we hunt down there was girls, but my days of that are way past me. But so in one of his hunting expeditions, he ran across a site that we called the Boneyard, and the Boneyard is an area about the size of half of a football field. If you went from the 50-yard line to either goal, then, and you made that that size of an area, then that's how big the Boneyard is. And we found all kinds of bones in that area. We found bones of bear. We found bones of things that we couldn't identify. We also found some cows. And one of the bones that we found was a femur, and this thing was probably about 2.5, maybe 2 inches in diameter, and it was snapped, and it was just snapped, and we found the 2 pieces to it. And a friend of mine worked at the forensic lab in Ashland, the animal forensic lab. It's one of the national leading forensic for animals. And I was talking to the coroner down there, and I said, "So what is this?" He said, "Well, this is a femur of a cow, a full-grown cow or a bull." And he said, "This is the femur." And I said, "So what do you think could have broke that?" And he goes, "I have no idea," because it wasn't in a place where it would have fallen. It was like in a meadow, Mm-hmm. And so I said, "So how much? What would be the tensile strength? In other words, how much pressure would it take to snap that bone like that?" And he says, "That's got to be upwards of 10,000 pounds." Wow. And I said, so any ideas? He goes, "I have no idea what could have snapped that." But, one thing we found in the area, and this is another indication of Bigfoot activity, is about 6 or 8 feet off the ground. We found a lot of trees, little saplings that might be 3 or 4 inches in diameter that were just snapped. And, it was too high for like a bear or anything to do it. And, so again, this is a pretty common thing that we find in Bigfoot sightings. I'm just trying to think what else in the Boneyard. So, that was pretty scary. So we spent the night up there, and I heard some audacious sounds. I heard noises that I'd never heard before. And we smelled something that was just disgusting. And so we felt that there was some Bigfoot activity in the area, even though we didn't see anything.
Well, I think one of the biggest things for anybody who does research on the Bigfoot or doesn't believe in the Bigfoot, one of the biggest things is that the Bigfoot has been hoaxed so many times.
Yeah, right. And I can't remember the name of the guy, and it's probably a good thing, but there was a guy that had this hoax that he had put together where, and as soon as I put word out that I was producing this movie, he was all over me. And, he wanted to get involved, and I said, "Nah, I don't think so," so, there are a lot of hoaxes. There's a lot of people make stupid movies about it and stupid videos about it just for laughs. But people will kid about all kinds of crazy things. Say it even if I do, but we have to be very careful because whether it's true or not, if somebody believes something, you should at least give them the courtesy of respecting their beliefs.
Right.
And part of the thing it's the same thing with God, it's like prove that God doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And you can't, and so my point about that was that, in order for you to absolutely and 100% with 100% certainty say that there is no Bigfoot, then you have to be God, because you have to be omnipresent. You have to know everything and see everything all at the same time, every place. Because the stories that I've heard and what I've read about Bigfoot is that they migrate hundreds of miles a year. And, it's like during the summertime and whatnot, they might go up to the, the northernmost parts of Canada where there's, it's remote. There are hundreds of thousands or even millions of square miles of unexplored territory in the United States, places where, people have never even been. And so who's to say that it doesn't go up there and live up there, one of the things that, one of the studies that I found is that, that a Bigfoot, was discovered, and so he didn't come back to his area. And that's kind of what we talked about in the movie, too. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And one thing that I love that you did with the movie was that you brought your own life into it as well as your research.
Of why people like it. I guess maybe because, the older because, and it's like, and again, I don't want to. Well, yeah, it was basically, I interjected my life into it because I lost my son, and I knew, and I could play that part because I knew what that felt like, and when it was about me and my discovery of Bigfoot and all the different things that went along with it, but I was going to tell you that one of the things that, that happens when you make a movie, making a movie they have about 1 million working pieces. And, it was probably 2012 when I had everything put together for the movie. I mean, the script and everything was ready to go. And so I started scheduling, and as I'm scheduling this, and trying to get investors in the movie, we discovered that half of the people in the United States actually believe that there's something to this Bigfoot business. And so that's a big number, and that's one of the reasons why the movie's so popular, I guess. But so anyway, it's 2012. I got the script. I'm doing all the scheduling. I got to line up the crew. I got to get the equipment, the locations, the stuff, all scheduled, ready. Well, that's summer, and probably maybe August. I was driving home one night, right, and a car was coming at me, and it had its bright lights on, and it almost blinded me, the bright lights. And the bright lights, they're hard anyway, but I mean, this was more than normal. And so I started noticing, I said, well, I better go check it out, and I don't know what's going on. So I went to, my eye doctor because my vision at night was affected, and he refers me to a retinologist because my eye doctor said that there was a little spot on my retina, and he wanted me to check it out just to be careful, to be cautious. And so I went to the retinologist, and he said, yeah, you have a melanoma in your right eye. In my left eye, all my life, since I was a little boy, I couldn't see very well out of my left eye because I have a thing called amblyopia. And amblyopia is just simply, they call it lazy eye because you don't use it, and then when you don't use it, you lose it. So I didn't have the optic nerve was not connected correctly to my left eye. So if I were to cover my right eye and I saw you across the parking lot, or I saw you at 50 feet away, I wouldn't be able to tell who you are, even though I could with my right eye, but not with my left eye. So I have this recognition problem. And, so, I mean, at that point, I had to make a choice. I could either, because I had done all this preparation work, I had everything lined up, I had the dates, I had the locations, I had everything ready to roll. And, if I would have put that off, I know that I probably wouldn't have gone back through it again because it's just an immense amount of work to get all that stuff lined up, because you got to get the locations, you have to have talent releases, you have to have property releases, you have to have the equipment lined up, you have to have the crew lined up, you have to have all the materials and all the craft services and all the different things, that a million pieces that go into making a movie. And I had those all ready to start shooting. So I decided that even though I wasn't feeling very well, and I was, hopefully I was on the mend. Well, I was at the point, but I didn't know it. And, so I just decided to go ahead and shoot the movie. So a lot of times as we're going through the scenes and we're shooting the scene, I had to wear glasses. But we would start shooting the scene and the glasses were still on when they weren't on. So we had to go back and shoot several scenes over again just because nobody picked up on the fact that I was wearing glasses. And so it becomes very difficult to direct a movie when you can't see. But right. I did. The first half of the movie, I directed it, and and it was all coming out pretty good. And then about halfway through the shoot, 3 key players, the key grip, my director, a photographer, and the producer came to me and said they wanted to renegotiate their deal. And I said, well, this certainly is not a very good time to renegotiate because we're halfway through the production. And I said, and besides that, we've signed on the deal, and they were insistent. I said, no, you can't. I'm not going to renegotiate this with you. Do what you said you were going to do, and live up to your contract. And they all didn't want to do it. Now, the thing that people don't realize, making a movie sometimes is a 14 to 16 hour a day deal. I mean, some of the night scenes that are in the movie, when we're around the campfire, that's 3 o'clock in the morning when we're shooting. And we probably started shooting the morning before at probably 7 o'clock. And so, I mean, we're working from 7 to 3 the next morning. And so I told those guys to pound sand. I said, I'm not going to pay you guys more. And in fact, you're all fired. And, I just figured, well, I'm going to go, because I'm in the industry in Southern Oregon. I'm one of the bigger players. I know a lot of people, and, I produced probably 30 documentaries altogether, maybe more than that. And, so I have a lot of connections, and so I just fired them on the spot. Well, and I went to talk to a friend of mine, a fellow by the name of Calvin Kennedy, and he runs Freedom Productions in Southern Oregon. And in fact, he helped me produce my first TV show, and we were nominated for an Emmy on the first TV show that I produced. And
wow.
That was like in 93. So we go way back. So I went to him and I said, Calvin, I really need you to help. And he said, what do you want? And to come in halfway through on a movie, nobody likes to do that. Nobody wants to come in and direct something that's pick up for somebody else. But I finally begged him and talked him into doing it, and he did it more as a favor to me because of our history, and then he came on board. And so we picked up the production again and started working, and actually there were parts of the movie that were filmed in the beginning half that were like at the end. And, because you don't film a movie chronologically, you film it based on locations and based on number of different factors. And so there's one scene that came very close to the end of the movie that was filmed at the very beginning of when we're working together. So Calvin came in, and Calvin's a wonderful cinematographer and a great director. And we shot some of the most beautiful scenery that you'd ever want to see. I mean, the place where we went up into the mountains around Medford, Oregon, there's just some gorgeous stuff, some waterfalls and rivers and lakes, and just an amazing scenery. And a lot of people, in Japan, we had a lot of people in Japan that loved the movie because of the scenery that we shot. And so we've had some really good feedback from actually all around the world. And so Calvin picks it up, and and as happens often, and when you have to replace a crew in the middle of the stuff, I ran out of money. Yeah. And so in order to finish the production, I sold my car, I sold a bunch of my guns, I sold some jewelry that I had, and so I finally was able to raise enough money because I didn't have time to go out and raise money. So I just sold that stuff, and I figured that would be the easiest way to do it. And I was able to raise enough money to get it finished. And so then we started working on the editing. And during the editing process, I came up with another case of cancer, but in this time it was prostate cancer, and that took me out for a few weeks as I dealt with that and the recovery and everything like that. But I'm happy to tell you that the cancer in my eye is dead. The prostate's been removed, so at this moment I'm cancer free. I'm knocking on wood right now.
Right, yeah, I would be too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just an amazing journey to get this thing done. And we finished it about March of 2014. And, from there until March of 2015, the real work had to be done. I had to find somebody to distribute it. And we finally ended up with New Kingdom Pictures and through Alchemy as their distribution arm, so we've been able to bring it out to the marketplace. And it's been, so far, it's been really good. And I pulled up my website where you can find it. It's like BigfootChronicles.com. And it says where to find Bigfoot Chronicles. It's on Amazon Prime, Google Play, Microsoft, Sony, Vimeo, Vudu. You can also buy it on Amazon, and I've seen copies of it on eBay already. And actually, I saw copies on eBay for more than the actual price of the video, the suggested retail price of it. So it's been very popular. And also on the website, if you go to BigfootChronicles.com, the main page, right near the top is you can watch the trailer. And, so everybody wants to get a flavor for the movie. It's an adventure movie, and it moves along pretty fast. And, there's also that, where it says under sample footage, there's some interviews that are part of the movie, and then the reviews. You can watch it where the focus group actually commented on it, so you can see what people thought of it too. You can stream it through the various places for like $4.99 or something like that. And then let's see, it's about the movie. It's a segment that just talks about what my goal was to make the movie. So it's been a real journey to get it done. It's actually took almost 40 years to do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't work on it the full 40. But I probably have 5 years of hard work into this thing to get it to the marketplace and to get it so where people can watch it. Because, I wanted to, whenever I go to a movie, when I was a little kid, my brother used to tell me these stories, and we would go, he would tell us about these adventures, and different things and just little scenarios, and he would read to me and stuff. And, to me, that was some really great time. So what I wanted to do was just to take somebody on a fun adventure that's not all bloody and not all gory and doesn't, use a lot of profanity. And, I've been known to swear once in a while.
Yeah.
A lot to make it into the movie. But, I just wanted somebody to be able to sit down with their family and watch it and learn something about Bigfoot. And so that's what we've done.
All right. Well, we are going to take our next break here, folks, and you're going to hear your paranormal headlines. We will be right back.
And now, Paratruth Radio's Paranormal Headlines.
Hey, Parafans. Justin here with your paranormal headlines. These headlines are from unexplainedmysteries.com. Man speaks Venusian in vintage BBC clip. The bizarre footage shows a man demonstrating his multilingual skills to a perplexed Patrick Moore. Legendary astronomer Sir Patrick Moore was best known for presenting the long-running astronomy series The Sky at Night up until his death in 2012 at the age of 89. But what most people probably don't remember is his stint at the helm of BBC documentary series One Pair of Eyes in 1969. In one episode, which was entitled Can You Speak Venusian?, Moore interviewed Bernard Byron from Essex, a free thinker who believed that he could speak in several extraterrestrial languages that had been communicated to him from the planets Venus and Pluto. In this vintage clip, Moore can be seen attempting to maintain a straight face while asking the eccentric pensioner to demonstrate the bizarre languages both in verbal and written form. Live pterosaur filmed flying over Idaho. A recently released video claims to show what looks like a dinosaur flying over the United States. The controversial footage, which was allegedly recorded over Boise in Idaho by a perplexed onlooker, captures the moment the prehistoric flying reptile was spotted over the area. Sightings of large winged creatures have actually been reported several times over the last few decades, with the legend of the Thunderbird still alive and well in Native American culture. Famous cases include that of two cowboys who in 1890 allegedly killed a gigantic bird-like creature in Arizona which had smooth skin and a face like that of an alligator. Cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman has also written extensively about a series of Thunderbird sightings that occurred in the 1940s. There was even an incident in 1977 in which three young boys in Lawndale, Illinois, were pursued by two large birds. As they tried to escape, one of the boys was allegedly picked up by one of the creatures and carried over a short distance before being dropped again. As for the new video, while it certainly looks impressive, critics have argued that it could very easily be a computer-generated hoax, and very little is known about the background of or circumstances. The chances of it being an actual pterosaur are remote, to say the least. And this has been Justin with your Paranormal Headlines.
This was a segment of Paratruth Radio's Paranormal Headlines.
All right, folks, welcome back to Paratruth Radio. My name is Justin, and I've been talking to Tom Bronson about his movie Bigfoot Chronicles. Tom, I wanted to give you one last chance to tell everybody where they can find you and find the movie, since we are coming close to the end of the interview here.
Right. Okay. Well, BigfootChronicles.com. You can find out everything you want to know about the movie. You can find out where to see it. I mean, there's just a number of different places where you can watch it. It's still, some Walmarts still have it. If they don't have it, you can ask them for it. I mean, that would be a great way to go out and own a copy of it. You also, if you go to the Where to Find page on BigfootChronicles.com, at the very bottom it says click here for director's cut with poster and soundtrack offer. That poster that I talked about of the Bigfoot walking across, a clear-cut forest, that kind of represents what the movie's about. And it's actually, we've had some pretty good success off of that. So
awesome.
That's the main place to find it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we hope to maybe have you on again sometime soon.
Yeah, that's my pleasure, and thank you very much for your interest in this and your kind words. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, folks. That was Tom Monson, who did the movie Bigfoot Chronicles. If you guys have not seen it yet, definitely check it out. It's definitely a very interesting movie, very down-to-earth kind of movie. And, as you heard, he does put a lot of truth into this fictional movie. So it was kind of a fiction / documentary movie. So that's about all we got for you guys this week. As I said, Eric is out for a while, so I am running solo for a couple of weeks, maybe even a little longer here. So next week we have on Richard Estep, author of In Search of the Paranormal, The Hammer House Murder, Ghosts of the Clink, and Other Disturbing Investigations. Going to be a great show, as always. So definitely stay tuned every week here on that note, my name is Justin, and I will talk to you guys next week, same time, same channel. And as Eric would always say, peace.
If you enjoyed this episode of Paratruth Radio, and you would like to listen to it again, or are interested in listening to any of our past episodes, then you can listen to them on HD at our website, paratruthradio.com.
And you can also find us at Stitcher, Blueberry, TuneIn, iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube.
And of course, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for brand new updates of our show every day.